If you want to build a successful global brand, you could spend millions on brand strategy. Hire some consultants, maybe bring in a focus group, develop some archetypes. Or you could just be Dolly Parton. She's one of the most iconic personal brands in modern history. A brand meticulously crafted over more than half a century, managed without the need for a rebrand, a refresh, or even a tagline. No marketing director, no creative director, just wigs, wit, and working class wisdom. This is the story of a woman who turned the loudest parts of herself into her legacy, and why, for all her sparkle, her brand isn't built on polish. It's built on power. Welcome back to Creative Briefs. Let's get into it. So what makes Dolly's brand so powerful? Well, the answer is complicated, but the components are straightforward. We've broken these down into smaller pieces to create 6 big lessons Dolly Parton can teach us about branding. Here we go. Chapter 1. The Flawed Are the Fearless. Dolly Parton never tried to be perfect. She tried to be unforgettable. From the beginning, she leaned into things other people told her to tone down. The hair got higher, the nails got longer, the rhinestones got brighter. She became a walking contradiction, devout and draggy, humble and high glamour, and every inch of it was intentional. She said, quote, "Find out who you are and do it on purpose." That wasn't a throwaway quote. That was her branding manifesto. Dolly didn't stumble into her look, she built it. And she built it out of something other people discarded. She modeled her aesthetic after the town tramp. Her words? Growing up in rural Tennessee. Not out of rebellion, but admiration. Dolly said, quote, "She had bright red lipstick, long red fingernails, high-heeled shoes, a tight skirt. I thought she was the prettiest thing I'd ever seen." When her mom warned her that that woman was just trash, Dolly replied, "That's what I want to be when I grow up. Trash."
I always tell them that we're just a bunch of hicks, so we kind of call our music hick hop.
Hick hop.
Isn't that what I say? Like,
Hick hop.
Dolly's not self-deprecating. She's brand aware. She understood that image is a tool, a costume, a calling card. She turned judgment into branding and shame into style. She once said, "People told me I looked cheap, that no one would take me seriously. But I didn't listen. I loved it, and that's all that mattered." That isn't vanity, that's strategy. By naming her so-called flaws, her wigs, her plastic surgery, her over-the-top fashion, she robbed the critics of their punchline. She didn't wait to be taken seriously. She took herself seriously, in her own way. Because when you own your image, fully and unapologetically, no one else gets to define you. Branding lesson number 1. If you want to be unforgettable, stop editing out the parts of yourself that make people stare. They might be the very things that make you stick. Chapter 2. Specificity builds universality. What do I mean by that? Well, Dolly Parton is unmistakably Southern. Her accent is thick. Her metaphors are folksy. Her songs are straight from the Smoky Mountains. By all accounts, she should be niche. And yet, her fan base spans generations, industries, and ideology. She's beloved in red states, blue states, drag bars, dive bars, boardrooms, and book clubs. So how did someone so specific become so universal? She never tried to be broad. Dolly didn't sand down her edges for mass appeal. She didn't soften her voice, water down her references, or try to be relatable to everyone. She stayed rooted deeply in who she was. "I'm not leaving the South," she once said. "I'm taking it with me." That's the key. She didn't compromise, she exported. She brought Southern womanhood, complete with contradictions, big feelings, and bigger hair, into spaces that had never made room for it before. In doing so, she created something rare, a brand with local roots and global resonance. She doesn't code switch, she doesn't placate, and she doesn't preach. Even when she speaks out, like on LGBTQ+ rights, education, vaccines, it's done with disarming warmth. I just try to stay out of politics, she said, and do what I think is the right thing. That approach has allowed her to expand her reach without alienating her base. The lesson here? When you try to speak to everyone, you end up connecting with no one. But when you speak from a place of depth, of truth, people don't need to share your background to connect with you. They connect because they can tell it's real. Dolly doesn't offer relatability, she offers honesty, and that is stronger. Branding lesson number 2. Be so specific that no one else could do what you do. Because in the end, Dolly didn't become iconic despite being deeply specific. She became iconic because of it. Chapter 3. Values over aesthetics. It's easy to be distracted by all the glitter, the wigs, the heels, the sequins that could blind you. But behind the glamour is grit. Dolly Parton didn't build her brand on visuals. She built it on values. She grew up one of 12 children in a one-room cabin with no electricity. Her coat of many colors wasn't just a song, it was a memory. And that early poverty became the heartbeat of her public life. She once said, "I know what it's like to struggle. That's why I try to give back whenever I can. I don't just want to be a star, I want to be useful." And she is. Her philanthropy is quiet, massive, and strategic. She founded the Imagination Library, a book gifting program that has now mailed over 200 million books to children around the world. She donated $1 million to fund Moderna's COVID-19 vaccine research during the pandemic. She paid full tuition for high school students in her hometown to attend college. She rebuilt homes after wildfires, sponsored hospitals, and she does it all without a press tour. No big branded foundation, no multi-million-dollar gala, just action. This isn't charity as PR, this is character as brand. She gives without asking for credit. When Whitney Houston recorded "I Will Always Love You," Dolly didn't just give her blessing, she gave her the publishing rights. I knew it was going to be a hit, and I thought, well, she deserves to have it, said Dolly. She also made sure those royalties went to support Whitney's family after her death, quietly and without fanfare. And years later, when asked about it on Andy Cohen, she just smiled and said, "It makes me feel good to know my song helped take care of Whitney's little girl." She walks the line without losing the message. Dolly almost never gets political, but she's always ethical. She supports LGBTQ+ rights without wading into partisan fights. She defends bodily autonomy without attacking other belief systems. She says more with kindness than most people do with outrage. "I'm not a judgmental person," she said. "I just want to love people and be loved." That's not soft. That is strategic. Because the more polarized our culture gets, the more powerful it is to be radically decent. Branding lesson number 3. People may come for the look, but they stay for the values. Dolly's brand works because the surface is fun, but the foundation is solid. She gives generously, she acts with intention, she uses her voice with care and her platform with purpose, not to go viral, but to go meaningful. Dolly isn't beloved because of her image, she's beloved because she's consistent, on stage, off stage, backstage. She reminds us that the loudest brand statements don't come from visuals, They come from values. Chapter 4. Emotional intelligence is her strategy. Dolly Parton doesn't just know what to say. She knows how to feel it. That is her secret weapon. Not the voice, not the hair, not even the wit. It's emotional intelligence. She writes about heartbreak like someone who's survived it. Twice. She sings about faith without preaching. She talks about ambition without ego. And somehow, even her jokes land like therapy. Dolly once said, "I'm not offended by all the dumb blonde jokes, because I know I'm not dumb, and I know I'm not blonde." That's not just a punchline. That's a masterclass in disarming critique with warmth. She anticipates the criticism and then diffuses it. Before anyone else can, Dolly points out the things you might make fun of. Her boobs, her wigs, her accent, her rhinestones. And then she smiles. Big, genuine, inviting. It's not self-deprecation. It's self-possession. By acknowledging her own absurdity, she beats the audience to the joke. And in doing so, she earns their respect. Here's Dolly on Barbara Walters in 1977, brushing off pointed questions about her appearance without a trace of defensiveness.
Dolly, where I come from, would I have called you a hillbilly?
If you had of, it would have been something very natural, but I would have probably kicked your shins or something. No, actually.
But when I think of hillbillies, am I thinking of your kind of people?
I think you probably are.
Dolly, did you look like this when you were a kid?
Not quite.
I mean, you didn't have the blonde wig, but when you went to school, when you were 11, 12, 13, was it this about you?
Well, you mean the full figure?
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah, I thought that's what you meant.
You're very beautiful. You don't have to wear the blonde wigs. You don't have to wear the extreme clothes, right?
No, it's certainly a choice. I don't like to be like everybody else. I've often made this statement that I would never stoop so low as to be fashionable. That's the easiest thing in the world to do. I'm very real.
Dolly doesn't do media training. She doesn't need to. When she sits down for an interview, she's not calculating. She's connecting. She remembers names. She gives compliments. She shares stories that feel personal, even when they're rehearsed. There's nothing slick about it, just sincere. Dolly said, "I just try to put myself in the other person's shoes, whether I'm writing a song or talking to a stranger. I want to feel what they feel." That's not something you can teach in branding school. That's called being human. You know, most brands focus on tone of voice. Dolly built hers on emotional texture. She can be bold and vulnerable, funny and wise, campy and grounded. She doesn't pick one lane, she weaves a tapestry. In a time when public figures are either polished to death or performatively raw, Dolly walks a quieter path. Genuine, consistent, and human. Branding lesson number 4. Emotional intelligence scales better than personality. The voice of your brand doesn't need to be quirky or edgy. It just needs to be emotionally fluent. Because people don't remember how clever you were, they remember how you made them feel. Dolly Parton doesn't market, she mirrors. She doesn't brand herself to be loved. She loves first and lets the rest follow. Chapter 5. The Accidental Gay Icon. Dolly Parton never set out to be a gay icon, but somewhere between the sequins, the sincerity, and the self-acceptance, the community found her anyway. And she didn't just allow it, she embraced it. Camp is a language, and Dolly speaks it fluently. Big hair, bigger heels, bold makeup, costumes as identity, glamour as armor. Dolly wasn't imitating drag, but she understood it. She built a brand on exaggeration, on choosing joy, on turning pain into pageantry. "I know they say I look artificial," she once said, "but I believe that inside, I'm as real as they come." To queer audiences, especially drag performers, Dolly's entire existence was an act of permission. She made being too much feel just right. And she didn't just accept the love, she returned it. Many celebrities get queer fandom. Few know what to do with it. But Dolly did. When asked why so many drag queens dress like her, she laughed and said, "Because they're doing me better than I'm doing me." No discomfort, no distance, just pure delight. She's performed at Pride, spoken out against anti-LGBTQ+ laws, and when conservative fans pushed back, she didn't flinch. She said, "God made us all. We're all just people trying to do our best. And if you don't like that, I'm not your girl." That's not politics. That's clarity. Brand loyalty isn't always designed, but it can be earned. Dolly didn't build a brand to appeal to the LGBTQ+ community. She built a brand so unapologetically true to herself, it created space for others to do the same. That's what queer fans saw. Not a performer, but a survivor. Someone who wore who she was, literally and emotionally, without shame. And when they loved her for it, she didn't call it a phase, she called it family. Branding lesson number 5. Sometimes your best audience is the one you didn't know you were building. You don't always choose your brand tribe, but if you lead with truth and live it consistently, they'll find you. And if you're lucky, they'll even crown you queen. Dolly Parton didn't campaign to be a gay icon. She just stood still while the light hit her. Glitter, flaws, love, and all. She didn't ask for the title. She earned it by being radically herself and giving everyone else permission to do the same. Chapter 6. Brand as Mythology. Dolly Parton is a real person, but Dolly Parton TM is something more. She's not just a musician, or a celebrity, or even a legend. She's a myth. Icons don't blend in, they rise above. Like Elvis, like Bowie, like Prince, Dolly is one of the rare few who turned a persona into a symbol. A larger-than-life character so consistent, so captivating, that she became part of the cultural fabric. She said, "I created Dolly the way some people create characters in books. I wanted her to be everything I wasn't allowed to be." She's spoken of Dolly almost like an alter ego, a glittering extension of herself. One who could wear the heels, say the bold thing, take the heat. And it worked. The costume isn't a disguise, it's a declaration. Dolly's look isn't about hiding, it's about amplifying. She once said, "People think I'm a joke, but I'm not. And I like the joke, but underneath it, there's a heart and a mind that's always working." The rhinestones, the wigs, the over-the-top persona, that's not artifice, that's strategy. The spectacle draws you in. The substance keeps you there. The myth stays fresh because the person keeps showing up. Dolly has never disappeared and come back rebranded. She's never pivoted, never apologized, never hit reset. She just kept being Dolly through every generation, through every controversy, through every trend. Her fans aged with her and passed her on like folklore because the best brands don't update. They evolve with the culture without losing their center. Branding lesson number 6. When your identity is strong enough, you don't need reinvention. You become a genre. Dolly didn't need to adapt. The world adapted around her. She is rhinestones and resilience, faith and fire, soft-spoken, sharp tongue, and sparkling from head to toe. She turned her story into a symbol, her flaws into features, her personality into permanence. This isn't just a brand, it's a mythology, wrapped in rhinestones and powered by purpose. Dolly Parton never rebranded, she never pivoted, she never pretended to be anything she wasn't. She just showed up, fully formed, fully herself, again and again and again. And in doing so, she built a brand stronger than strategy, more enduring than trend, more human than most of us dare to be. She taught us that consistency doesn't have to mean stagnation, that glamour doesn't cancel out grit, that sincerity can sparkle. Her wigs are real, her kindness is realer, and her brand, it's bulletproof. Because when your story is honest, when your style is intentional, and when your heart shows up in every decision you make, you don't need a campaign. You just need courage. This isn't just the story of a country music legend. It's the story of how one woman turned glitter into gospel and taught us that the most unforgettable brands are the ones that know exactly who they are. Because when identity is clear, values are loud, and style is intentional, you don't just build a brand, you build a legacy. This is Creative Briefs. Every brand has a story, and here at Creative Briefs, we're here to tell it. If you believe a great design should sparkle and stand for something, subscribe. All right, I'll see you in the next one.